Hi everybody, my name's Jerry and this is my daughter Ella. Ella, can you wave at the camera? Can you say hi to everybody? And there we go. That's it. So I'm Jerry. Got my partner Royce over here, and we are going to talk about a Java game that we're creating in our Java class and some of the changes that we've implemented since our last video. Royce?
Yeah. So kind of like Jerry said, we've been working on a JavaScript text-based game, also with some GUIs, for coming on 14 weeks now in our class. And for those of you who don't know, the basic premise of our game is it kind of follows the same story of the book called Hatchet. Where it is the main character of the game is flying over the Canadian wilderness with his uncle. When the plane goes down, and he's the only one that survives. And the whole goal, the whole point of this game is for you, the user, to make it from the crash site all the way to a road so you can get rescued, using basically only your hatchet and your knowledge to make it there. Along the way, you're gonna have to fight bears, wolves, moose, all of those things, but you're also gonna have to hunt deer and rabbits, all sorts of things like that to make it so that you can survive and make it. It's a really exciting game. We've done a lot to it since our last video, and Jerry's going to now show you what it looks like.
Okay, that's right. So if I do a screen share here, Ella says hi. Do a screen share, and so here we have our code. Well, some of it, and over here in our NetBeans you can see this is our project and all the packages. So we're gonna run the project, and this is the frame that you will see when you first run it. Now you can enter your name, and it'll take you to the main menu screen where you have a few options. Now, one cool thing that we implemented here in the frames, or in the J buttons really, was the ability to, or we added key listeners, and so that way you can activate a certain button just by pressing the key associated with that button. So you can see here for the start game, that's a G because you can tell it's underlined. It's S for save game, L for load game, H for how to play, and E to exit. Now what we're going to do is let's start with how to play. So you click on how to play, and this text isn't very easy to read here, but essentially it explains the premise of the game. As Royce explained, you crash and you're alone and you have to survive. And then we have the goal of the game, how to use the map, how to hunt and gather other minerals or resources and food, how to craft different items. So we're going to go ahead and start the game. Now, here you have your game menu. So these are all of the things that you can do as a player of the game. What we're going to spend most of our time on today is the map and how we created it, how we implemented a lot of the functions that have to do with it. And that's really what we've been doing these last couple weeks. Our map was quite large. It was a 20 by 20 array of locations. So that's 400 individual locations that we had to set up. And Royce is now going to explain to you how we did that and kind of what we went about doing with the map.
All right, so kind of like Jerry said, here's our basic map, and let me tell you, this thing was a challenge but exciting to see what we could do with it. You can see right here, as you scroll down on each part of the map, there was a key enter and a key exit, or a mouse enter and a mouse exit, meaning every time your mouse enters here, a new picture needs to come up, and as it leaves, the other picture needs to come up. That's the layman terms way to put it. But how to do that was kind of a long process. You'd have to come over here, click on the properties, come over to events, type in the mouse entered, and this would be the source of that, where you'd have to pick, okay, since it's a mouse entered, we need to do the rollover icon, and it's a mouse exited, we just needed to do the basic icon. So that was a challenge in itself, seeing how there were 400 different parts of the map. Along with that, the thing we found out were we were inserting every single sources individually for this entire map. So we were putting the input in on each one when we decided, after talking to our professor, it's going to be so much easier if we just do one input for each thing all the way up here in our map move frame. And this did a couple of things, really. It made it so that we could change all of the inputs on all of the rest of the code really simply, but also it makes the game just go that much faster. Instead of for each frame having to look up the input and the source of it, we already have it all inputted in, so that just made the game kind of speed up. So that just made it, when you actually go to play it, everything's just moving a lot faster, whereas before there was a little bit of lag. So that was a really cool thing that we learned. You know, and like we talked before, in our map control, the other thing that takes the longest was in each part of the map, there's different things. We wanted to be able to implement different forest scenes, so that way it doesn't feel repetitive. So for instance, we have a forest scene here where there's X amount of berries, X amount of branches, and forest scene 2 where it has a different amount of branches, different amount of berries. Forest 3, same thing. And we did this for all of our map. That way it feels like the player's progressing. Nothing's gonna be the same. And while that will be really cool for the user, it did make a lot of work for us, but it was exciting to see how it happened. It was exciting to do all of that. So that was our map. That was the thing that we spent the most time on. You can imagine going through all those cells multiple times was tedious, but kind of exciting. So Jerry's going to explain some of the rest now.
That's right. So, let me pull up my NetBeans here and show it to you. So, one of the really, I guess the way I would put it is one of the really fun things that I did, that we did this week was, well, besides creating all those labels, we created our move function. So here's our basic move to location function, which is used whenever you want to move the player from one location to another. Now, to do this, you know, there's a couple of things that we had to do. Most importantly, we had to set this basic function right here, which, by the way, the move to location uses the set location function. The set location is the most basic function that has to do with an object, such as a player, and a location. So here you can see you take the location and you create a new variable called actor start location, and you assign this to it. You get the current game, get the map, get the locations, and according to your input that you can put in up here in this function, you get the column and the row. All right, and then of course you set that location. Now, and then this function here will implement this and this function. So what was really cool to go through and do was create create this move function because I didn't want it to be boring. You know, if someone tries to go from one side of the map to the other and they haven't explored the whole map yet, I didn't want to make that possible, so that the game would have a sense of discovery. You know, you can't see the end until you work to get there. Now, we did this by using a large if clause. So basically what this is saying is if the location has been visited, because each location has a isVisited variable, instance variable, then if it has been visited, move the player to that location. So any location that you have already visited, you can move there immediately. Now notice again that this is passing in the column and the row that the player will be inputting to try and move. This is important because we don't want to make an infinite amount. I mean, obviously there's a finite, it would be a finite number, but we don't want to make a function to move from one location, one specific location, to another specific location. To do that, you'd have to implement 400 times 400. You know, we're talking, you know, what, I'm bad at math. What, 16,000 different functions. So what you have to do really is make a generic move function that will take the input and use it, and that's what we did here. We passed in the integer column and the integer row that the user will input to, and that goes into the function, and it checks if the location that they're trying to go to has been visited, and if it has not, if it has, it moves them straight there. And here, this is just for testing purposes. I did a system out print line, which just prints out a line in the console that says you have traveled to the location. Else, and this is our second clause here, else if the location has not been visited, so we add this exclamation mark right here, and this is the same line of code that we had up here but with an exclamation mark. So if it has not been visited and the destination is 1 square away, which is all of this code, basically what I'm doing here is if the column that I'm in is 1 or less than 1 away from the column I'm trying to move to, and the row I'm in is 1 or less than 1 away from the one I'm trying to move to, then move the player to the location. And then here you see us referencing that set location function that I talked about right up here. Now, and this is the third clause. Else, if the location has not been visited and the location is more than 1 square away, basically all you have to do here is flip these greater than less than symbols and take off the equals sign. So if those are the parameters, tell the player he must move closer, get closer to move to that area. And here's my testing output right there. So that is our move function, and looks like we're running out of time. There are a couple other functions that I wanted to talk about there, but it looks like we're not going to have time to talk about them. There's my little daughter that you've been hearing whining this whole time.
She makes us look cute. Is really what that is. She brings up our adorable factor.
That's right. That's right. Because we're definitely not adorable.
not in the slightest.
But so that's our video. We hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, we've had a lot of fun doing it, and look forward to learning more about Java in the future. Thank you, and have a nice day.